And then there were 6. Hey guys, welcome back to the Everything Anime Podcast. I'm your host Shinry. Here at the Everything Anime Podcast, we talk about everything from anime, manga, video games, TV shows, and whatever relevant topic we'll probably talk about. Today's video is continuing the Dr. Stone story. So I was gonna do the Dr. Stone video that I did yesterday. Like I said, I normally do it in 10 chapters, but a lot of this stuff is happening like major revelations compared to like the Bound arc I could combine, the Tsukasa versus Senku arc I could combine, and usually there's things I can combine, but since these are major relations, I kind of broke them up into different chapters. So let's talk about this chapter. So this reveals what happened to Byakuya's father. Senku's father. What happened to the how he formed the village, and basically like a little bit more information about like what happened to those who weren't on Earth. So let's get into it. So Senku's father, Byakuya, and 5 others made it to the ISS. They were like 6 astronauts that were traveling to space, and they were supposed to spend a week up there. According to another one of the astronauts, Lillian, who is a singer. And so I believe she said she was like a space guest or something like that. Like, they're all she's kind of goofy like Byakuya. I know the only names I remember are Connie, Shamil, Byakuya, and Lillian. We don't really get the other 2 names. I think Yakuzo. So maybe I did learn all of them, I just forgot. Anyways, so once we're on the ISS, we quickly learn like Byakuya is a goofball, just like Lillian. Like Lillian starts singing, and while they're on the ISS for a week, she's making a recording back to Earth for her fans, and the rest of the group are like kind of like not doing that. So she's like, hey, don't you guys have like loved ones or someone you want to reach out to? And Shamil says something like, who looks like Tsukasa in this like flashback, sort of like his father or ancestor. But he says basically like, no, I don't have any kids or loved ones back home, so there's no one back there for me. And then he mentions, I think either him or Lillian mentioned like, hey, Byakuya, don't you have a son? Don't you want to like say something to him? And Byakuya is like, well, my son's probably buried in research. He's not really worried about me. He's probably focused on the next project. I don't want to bother him. Oh, sorry guys, I'm still getting over that cold. And he's kind of right. Dr. Stone is looking over research on the stone birds. I'm guessing the one that Taiju and Yuzu found. So he comes across this research that sparrows around the whole entire world have been turning to stone. And that's what we know what Senku's doing at the time during present day. Back on the ISS, the crew is bonding, they're getting along, and Byakuya, once again, being like the jokester lady, he's trying to like bond with Shamil, who's like the more serious one. He's like, Shamil, here, try some of this ramen, which we know is a big thing in Senku's current time in this situation. And Shamil's kind of like pushing him down. He's like, oh, he's like, I don't have time for jokes or anything like that or fun. I'm here to do research. And besides, I already have like this pre-prep food. And Byakuya's like, here, just try it. He gives him some ramen. Before he can get an answer from Shamil about how he feels about the ramen, that's when they see the phenomenon. This like giant beam of light, or maybe even a nuclear explosion that like turned everything on Earth to stone. They don't know that happened yet. They just see this giant explosion. And so, immediately, they're worried about their friends and family on Earth. Byakuya is thinking about his son Senku, and they try reaching the NASA or like any kind of communication on Earth. They can't get through anything. And so, I think it was Byakuya that's like, well, there's got to be like some kind of 24-hour security feed. There's got to be something that can tell us what's happening on Earth. And there is. They hack into a 24-hour security feed, and that's when they see this like baseball field. Everybody on Earth, everybody in that baseball field is turned to stone. They're all petrified, and they're confused by this. And again, Byakuya is thinking about his son Senku. He's like, we've got to get back to Earth. And let me check my notes real fast, guys. Yeah, they're like thinking we got to get back to Earth and like save everyone. That's Byakuya's thought. He's like, we for some reason aren't affected, but everybody else on Earth is petrified. We are probably the last 6 humans in existence. And so the crew's kind of split here. The half the crew's like, well, we can't go to Earth. If we go to Earth too, we could get petrified too. We don't even know where the origin of this light came from, or if we go to Earth, if we'll be instantly petrified. Whereas, like, the other half of the crew, Byakuya, is like, well, we can't do nothing. We have to save them. I have to save my son. And so Byakuya is like, basically, we will go to a point the furthest away from the light source. And using a technique that his son Senku came up with, he determines that the source of light, whatever this nuclear bomb or whatever it was, it happened in South Africa, which is interesting because now we know a pinpoint where the origin of this light came from. It happened in South Africa, and they determined the farthest place from South Africa is Japan, which I thought was interesting. But that's where we end up. We end up in Japan. Ooh, goodness, sorry guys, I am tired. Anyway. So, Byakuya is like, okay, what we'll do is we'll split it in 3 groups. 3 of us will go to Earth, and 3 of us will remain behind to, like, just in case anything happens. But we have to do something. And Byakuya is the one to offer himself up first. But that's when Shamil punches him. He's like in the gut. And they kind of, this is where I got that Tsukasa Senku vibe, was this part. Because, like, the muscle guy, the I still forget what the kingdom of whatever. I think it might have been the kingdom of stone that Tsukasa is, and then the kingdom of science, what Senku is. So I kind of get that vibe from those two, like they're mirroring their children, but Shamil has no children, so, or yet anyway. And so Shamil's like, look, you have a kid, you have a son to think about. You can't go down to Earth and get petrified. Let us take the risk. And so 3 of them, I think it was Shamil, Lillian, and maybe Connie, go down to Earth. And they take a shuttle, and they land in the water. They were hoping to land near an island, but they land in the middle of the water. And the way that their shuttle landed, it's like capsized. So if they open the hatch, they're going to drown instantly. But also, if they don't open the hatch, they will lose oxygen within a couple hours. Back on the ISS, they received this information, and they're like, well, what do we do? If we do nothing, they'll die, but if we also go, we could just land in the water too, or we can land on the island and be like hours away from them. Like, either way, this seems fruitless. But Byakuya is so determined, just like Senku. He's like, no, we are going to save them. I am going to save everyone. And so they go into a second shuttle. We don't see it, but they do land on Earth. And then we go back to the first shuttle with Lillian, Shamil, and Connie. And we can assume hours have passed because they're running desperate on oxygen. And Shamil's like, hey, everybody, we got to conserve our energy so we don't waste the little bit of oxygen that we have. And Lillian starts singing, and he's like, "Didn't I just tell you to conserve your energy?" And she just starts laughing because she's a prankster. But there's more to that in a second. We'll learn more about that in a second. But as she looks out the window, it's to alert them like, "Hey, Byakuya's here," and he's been rowing for 10 hours straight, and the man's exhausted, he's tired, but they're all relieved, and he's relieved to have saved his friends. And so then we skip to an island, a large uninhabited island that they say is far away from the blast, as some part of Japan, I guess, that's far away from the blast, and they find this boat with like life. What do you call those? Like crates of food supply and stuff like that. Like emergency supply. That's the best way I can say it. So they think like, hey, maybe someone's alive on this island. No, that man that they found is petrified as well. So that confirms to Byakuya as well as the 5 others, we are the last 6 humans on Earth. That's it. And what's interesting is they do this time. They talk basically like, we just have to accept this. And then there's this time skip 3 years later where you see like Shamil and Connie got married and they had kids, and you can tell like maybe Byakuya and Lillian are also a couple, like they got together. But basically they just kind of accepted that like there's nothing we can do. We're the last humans on Earth. They're repopulating the Earth in a way, but like also they're just living their lives. They're singing, they're dancing, they're having kids. And the reason why they're doing this is because they're like, well, just because we're the last humans on Earth doesn't mean we can't have fun. But just as everything happens, a tragedy has to... Oh, I'm also forgetting before that. Lillian starts singing. Hopefully this is in order. Let me check. Yeah, Lillian begins singing with joy just because she's overcome with happiness. And in the middle of singing, she starts thinking about like all of these artists and music and how all of this is going to die with them. And she's like, no one's... If we're the last humans and eventually, like, we eventually do repopulate the Earth, no one's going to remember all these amazing artists, Mozart, the Beatles, and basically, like, Beyonce, just throwing out a wrench. She didn't say Beyonce, but like the Beatles. But like, just like, no one's going to remember any of this. And Byakuya is like, no, people will remember. My son is out there somewhere. He will make sure they remember. And he also says this line that he and Senku aren't blood related. It came out of nowhere, but it's to say like Senku was adopted, which I thought was interesting because, I mean, I haven't seen the anime, so I don't know how the character looked until I did this image, but I guess Senku would be adopted. I don't know if that's going to make a major difference in the story, like Senku's related to like a smart family or something like that, like Nami from One Piece, how Nami was found as a baby. I don't know if those are going to come back in like major ways, but he believes that Senku and his friends will someday save humanity, and that's the 100th tale. But we go to present day, and Senku and his friends in present day, they're kind of celebrating, they're having a party. And during this party, Ruri pulls Senku aside. She's like, hey, this last part of the 100th tale is specifically for you. Like, it's not for anybody else to hear. And so she takes Senku to this graveyard, and it's where the founders of the village were like died, like 3,000 years ago. And she's like, your father's here, basically. And Senku's like, he doesn't like a scientific way. He's like, oh, it's been 3,000 years. It's been 3,000 years. There's not even bones or anything left under the ground there. But he still goes to his father's grave. And as he's going there, she tells him the 100th tale he made specifically for you. So the 100 tales that the shamanists have been passing down were created by Byakuya. The first tale is basically like, let me see what I had put in my notes here. The first tale he planned would tell about Japan, and it would tell about the Japan that Senku would eventually try to make, and then the 100th tale will be a message directly to Senku. Now, I'm forgetting to mention, or before even that happened, the way that they died was because of pneumonia back then too. So there was a time skip, and in the past, and Senku's friend, Byakuya's friend Shamil was dying of pneumonia. Like, someone else had already died, I believe it was his wife. It's not on screen, it's just kind of like off screen. And we can see that, like, someone had kids and children, and the children are playing, but Shamil is dying. And Byakuya tells us it's because of pneumonia. They don't have the cure in this time. They don't have biotics, because that was the current time. They didn't have antibiotics, or enough antibiotics to cure him. And so, as Shamil's dying, he says to Byakuya, despite he was a serious one, I had fun this entire time that, like, we've been together for 3 years was the first time skip, but we don't know the time skip past that. So let's say 10 years. This whole time we've been together and had families and kids, I had fun. And just so you know, that ramen you gave me that day on the ISS, whenever the light of petrification happened, I actually loved it. And Byakuya is happy. He's like, well, one day we'll eat ramen again on the ISS. Basically in heaven is what he's trying to say. I don't know if scientists believe, or not just don't they believe in heaven, but he's basically saying that, like, yeah, we'll eat ramen again in heaven. And it's a really cute moment. And then Shamil dies off screen, or he's buried off screen. And that's when Byakuya and Lillian are talking, and Byakuya is making, like, he's making, like, notes in the sand, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I want to leave instructions for people, our descendants, on what to do. I want to tell them about, like, what dangers to look out for, what foods to prioritize. And I believe he said something about, like, rocks and minerals for, like, if someone ever wants to, like, create something with these, which is going to be chrome eventually in the future. And basically he's like, I'm going to call these the 100 tales. And so there's another skip where he gets to the 100 tale. He's like, these 99, the first 99 tales will be about, like, how to make Japan back to the way it was and how to survive and things like that. But the last tale, Senku, this is for you. Senku, I believe in you. I believe that you're going to save humanity. I believe you and your friends, whatever time you're going to awaken, because he doesn't know when. He does, oddly, he says thousands of years in the future. Like, I think that's too specific. I would have just said Senku when you wake up, or Senku when you come back, not thousands of years. To assume that Senku would wake in thousands of years is kind of a strange thing. Like, think there's someone even survived that long, but whatever. Anyways, Senku, when you wake up, I know that you will save all of humanity. I'm putting this in your hands. And Senku cries, and, he takes it to heart, which is it's a really cute moment. And as Senku heads back to the village, I believe it's Suki, right? No, it's Gen. Gen has a message. He has a warning to give to Senku. And Senku's already back to seriousness, because he's taking Byakuya's... he already had planned to save humanity, but he's taking his father's, like, message even more serious. And Gen says Tsukasa's and his army of stone warriors are coming, and we're about to begin the Stone Wars. Bro, the Stone Wars, that title is so dope. That sounds so cool. That made me want to stop already. So even though we already broke up 3 chapters really short, I had to stop here too, because I was like, the Stone Wars sounds like that's going to be a whole arc to talk about and discuss, and I cannot wait to get into that. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. That sounds like it's going to be really interesting. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Basically, Byakuya and 5 others were the last 6 humans on Earth. They didn't repopulate the Earth completely, but they did, build families. They got married, and they were living happily on this island on Earth for a while until pneumonia hit and they started dying. But they are And this restarted timeline, the Adams and Eves of the Dr. Stone's world. And Senku says one other line like, or Kohaku or Riri says, so we're all descendants of your father in some sort of way, right? So we're all related. And Senku says, well, after 3,000 years, eventually, like, no one's really related. And I thought that was interesting because, sure, in the theory of Adam and Eve, we all come from the same father and mother because of God. And then, you know, they had all these kids, and in that way, all humans are related, but also it's been so many years that we're not. But also, I do believe in the theory of evolution, because I'll give you both. If we all came from fish, eventually all those humans made it together, and they were all related in some point too. If you believe they're fish or apes or whatever, like all the apes are related too. So still, all the same family. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. But yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, we'll stop the video here. I'm looking forward to see what the Stone Wars are in Dr. Stone. But before we even get to that, we're going to get back into Demon Slayer. Up next is probably Boruto, Infamous, and then One Piece Heart of Gold. Either way, look forward to the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey guys, this video was sponsored by me, the author of the Shinry series, the Chronicles of Wayne, and Monsterverse. So I figured I'd do this outro a little bit different by showing you guys what you guys will be checking out. So, the Shinry series starts with Book 1, Shobu Samurai Project Aryoku. 10 years after the death of his parents, Shobu Samurai returns home seeking vengeance, but instead faces the choice to save his home from shadow creatures, blood beasts, and an organization once thought dead. Shinry's Shobu Samurai starts at $9.99. And if you love anime, manga, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho, Fairy Tail, Shaman King, Rave Master, Zatch Bell, anything like that, the Shinry series is definitely the series for you. You'll definitely want to check it out. The Sword of Light is probably the thickest one so far. And then these books are 2. This is Enter the Dread Zone Tournament. And the series original ending, Arado, the Legendary Conjuring Master. So, and I'll just show you guys some of the covers. Really proud of all of these. But I hope you guys check it out. If you don't like that, I also have the current published books for the Chronicles of Wayne, Love Be Damned, Cotton Candy, Full Moons, Fabled Lovers, A Cursed Virgin's Bite. If You Go Where Monsters Dance, Red will Reign Over Your House. Love Be Damned. Now, the Chronicles of Wayne is about a geeky guy, or a nerdy guy in high school. His senior year, he has a crush on the hottest guy in school, because of course he does. He's only got one best friend, and her name is Barb. Well, the hottest guy in school turns out to be a werewolf. And to make the story more interesting, he bites Wayne and turns Wayne into the first ever wolfman in the last 10 years. And because of that, it was also a sacred law that wolfmen should never be created. I don't want to get into too much of the Chronicles of Wayne without spoiling it, but I can tell you it's very short. This one sells for $6.99, and Love Be Caged right after it. The ending of this trilogy, Love Be Liberated, comes out in October. So I'm going to definitely do a more full in-depth review of this one. But yeah, it's an LGBT fantasy fiction story about werewolves, vampires, white witches, a dark warlock, and, well, many, many more surprises to come. So, if you guys like to read, I definitely recommend. These are all the books so far in the Shinry series, except for Shinry's Beginning. I do have that one, but it's just not here with me. But yeah, I appreciate a like, support, or just a review on Amazon. Either way, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day.